Yo, hey there everybody. So today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on fixing a flat. We're going to replace the inner tubes on this bike here. Got a couple flat tires, so let's just jump right into it. Alright, so a couple things. First is we're going to do this, both tires are flat. We're going to do the back wheel first. So first thing you want to do is, just looking at the gear selection, we want to go ahead and put this down into the smallest cog. It's just going to be easier to get the wheel in and out, I found. So it's going to shift her down there and rotate her down into the smallest cog. And then from here, we're going to also go ahead and undo. This is a linear pull, or what they would call a V-brake. Holding my camera here, so I'm trying to do this one-handed, but basically what you're going to do is, if you hold on to this piece and then pull this piece out, there's a little slot. You can see that on the top of there. So I'll see if I can do this one-handed. Pull that out, that just unhooks. So you've got this little pocket there, and then the slot where so this part of the cable is just going to slip through there. So basically that opens this up where we can get the tire and everything past the brake pads there. All right, so next step, we've got this particular wheel is a bolt-on. Some of them are going to be like a quick release lever, or newer ones will have like what they call a through axle. So what we're going to do is just basically turn these nuts counterclockwise here. If I get this one broke loose, the wheel's going to want to just basically fall out. If we just look in relation to, the wheel was up here, you can see the relation of the rear derailleur, where the chain is and all that. So I'm just going to drop this straight down. And then once I kind of get the chain disengaged from the rest of it, and again, I'm trying to just do this one-handed. So normally what I would do is probably, see if I can hold this, just push down on the derailleur, and that's going to create some slack. If you push on this little part right here, it's generally not greasy. If you just grab hold of the chain and stuff, you're going to end up with a really greasy hand. And from there, you can just pull that out of the way, and then we've got our wheel there where we can work on it. All right, so we've got our wheel here. It's obviously flat. We've got a new inner tube. This is the appropriate size. This particular wheel's a 24-inch, so I think that's about a 24 by 1.85. So I've got here a 24 by, that fits a range of 1.5 to 2.125. So we're basically within that range. And then we've got our Schrader style valve. So go ahead and pull off the valve cap here. If it's a really tight fitting tire, sometimes you may want to use like a little tire lever to pop that off. In this case, this tire is so loose, if you pinch it in here on the bottom, kind of pull up on the top of the tire, normally you can just pull that whole thing off in one little swoop there. Biggest mistake a lot of folks make at this point is just to take the inner tube out and then just blindly throw a new inner tube into the tire there without finding out what happened initially. So I can say for a fact on this one I probably know what's going on, because I've got this thing's loaded with these little I don't know if you can see that, little goat head thorns that are all in this tire. So I suspect that's going to be our issue. You can use the air pump. I've got our compressed air here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put some air in this tube now that's ginormous, and you can just kind of feel around the edges, where we've got some, where it's leaking, like I can feel right there. We've got a bit of a leak. I don't know, can't really transmit that through video. I can feel it. I can put some bubbly water or something on there and you can see it bubbling, but there's a leak. I can feel the air coming out right there. So a lot of times what you can do, you know, in relation to, here's our valve stem, here's where the leak is. You put your tire in, you know, initially what I like to do is, like I say, here's the label of the tire. You can line your stem up with that, and so then it's easy to do your detective work. And well, the leak's here, so that means that the point would be right in here. So I don't know how this tire was in there. I saw that there was quite a bit of evidence of thorns in this tire, so I'm just taking a rag and I'm just, you know, whatever, towel, rag, some kind of something that's gonna, or microfiber towel. We're just gonna, and I can, right there, instantly I felt it grabbing on something, so that's gonna tell me there's a, yeah, so we got some thorns and stuff in here, so we want to just make sure we get all of those out. I'll usually go around with that rag one time, just, you know, because sometimes if you just start going through here like that, and you know, like I'm finding a thorn right here, so we want to make sure we get all these pulled out of here. Otherwise, you just put your tube back in there, then you're just going to repeat this process again. You're going to get a flat pretty quickly afterwards. So if this is something you're doing on the side of a trail or bike path, just make sure you check. You know, could be a thorn, could be a little cut or something in the side. Normally, if it takes a bit to go flat, that's a good indicator that it's something small. You just got a small puncture in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all these little guys out of here. And, you know, once you're confident you've got all the debris out, you know, just go around and double check it. Sometimes you may have a little piece of glass or a little piece of shell or something that gets embedded into the tire, and if that's the case, sometimes you may not be able to feel it like this, but doing the thing where, you know, if you have your tube with the valve stem lined up with the label and you're getting these repeated issues, you can basically pinpoint where the issue is. And some, you know, I've had that happen before where there's you can't find the actual whatever debris that's causing the flat, but you know, you can isolate where it's coming from and then dig it out. You know, sometimes that, you know, that's pretty rare. Normally it's pretty easy to find out what's causing the issue. So anyway, this particular tube, one thing that works, you know, on a kid's bike like this, that they're getting off in the whatever, off-road, getting into a lot of goat heads, and this is a repeated problem. We're going to go ahead and put some sealant. You know, I've got just bulk sealant. This is you can use whatever. This is the Bontrager TLR sealant. I mean, I'll use whatever, Stans, Orange Seal. There's all kinds of different brands out there. So I'm going to shake it up real well. This is just a bulk container. I'll usually transfer it into a smaller container and then we'll squirt it into the tube itself here. Did a video my last video was some different tools that I like to use every day, and this is definitely one that I use frequently. It's a little valve core. Got our Schrader valve core remover on this side, and then a Presta valve core remover if the Presta valve has a removable core. Most these days do, some don't. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and pull our valve core out, and then from there we just have this hole that we can inject our sealant into. Okay, so got my little bottle here of sealant. Got to make sure these are shaked up. You can buy these normally commercially. This is 3 ounces. It's probably enough to do as far as a 24-inch tire tube combo like this, you could probably, one bottle would do both. So anyway, I want to make sure this is shaken up, all the particulates are mixed around real well. Actually, most of them aren't going to have, I put like a little a nut or something in here, just something to kind of like a little marble in a rattle can to help shake it up. Most of them aren't going to come with that. That's just one little trick I like to do. But I'm going to squirt this. I probably had about 2 ounces in here in this bottle, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it all in here. And I usually shoot a little air in there just to clear that chamber out. And I'm going to go ahead and put my valve stem back in, snug that down, and we're going to put just enough air in here to round it out, give it some shape. So basically at this point we're going to go ahead and put the inner tube into the tire to start with. This is a wire bead tire. If you have sometimes like a road bike tire or something that's thinner and the tire's a little wimbly, it's hard, maybe more difficult to do this. Maybe easier to put the tire halfway on the rim first, but wire bead rim like this, you notice I put the tube with the valve stem lined up with the label on the tire, again, just to help us pinpoint matching up a puncture on the tube with the potential spot on the tire where it may have caused the puncture. So anyway, I've got the valve stem in first, then we're going to work one side of the bead of the tire on. So I've got it partially on, and again, this tire is really loose fitting. Most tires are going to be much tighter than this, so this is kind of a poor example. That may be one thing you struggle with as far as getting a tighter tire on, but this is the basic process. You'll work one side of the bead on, get the tube kind of all the way, in the rim, and then you can work the other side of the bead on. Just go around and work it bit by bit. Sometimes that last little bit's going to be hard to push over, but you should be able to do it by hand. If you've got too much air in the tube to start with to round it out, you might let a little bit out. Notice I move that valve stem up and down, make sure it's not trapped. The edge of the tube isn't trapped underneath your the edge of the tire, so you should be able to move it freely up and down there. And so from here I've got a little bit of air in it, probably 20 psi, and I'm just focusing on looking all around the tire. There's generally a little line on the tire, and you want to see that that's centered. There's no places where the tire's wanting to migrate off the rim, which can cause a blowout when you're inflating it, or make sure there's no spots where it's pushed in really far. Some tires that are really tight fitting, you may have to put quite a bit of air in them to get it to pop out and seat. Normally you can tell the little line will be pushed in under the rim, or when you spin the wheel, it kind of has a little bump in it. But anyway, so we got the wheel inflated, ready to put back on the bike. Again, we took it off in that first position cog, so that's the one we want to end up lining it back up with. Got my tire pushed all the way up against on the inside of the bike, kind of trying to film with one hand and sort of holding it with my knee with the other, and then kind of trying to guide it up in here. So basically you can see I've got it rested up on the first cog into that little gap in the chain there. So you'll want to just slowly push it up. You may not have a work stand, so if the bike's upside down, you can kind of let gravity just pull the wheel down into the dropouts of the frame there. This particular bike has these little washers, so I want to make sure they're both on the outside of the frame, how the bike was initially when I pulled the wheel off. So you might be mindful of that when you're removing the wheel. So I got the axle nuts there just hand tight, and I'm not just going to go and tighten one side all the way. I'm going to snug one side down and then snug the other side down. And then once it's snug enough to kind of hold it in place, I'll kind of go back and forth, maybe loosen the one side, make sure the wheel's pulled all the way up as far as it'll go up in the dropouts, and then kind of do the same to the other side. And then from there you can just gradually tighten each side down. You don't want to tighten one side more than the other, and it causes the wheel to spin and the dropouts and be installed crooked. Then we're just going to hook our brake back up. So just kind of you want to focus on pulling both arms in together, pull the cable out, and then you'll just slip the inner wire portion of the cable through that little slot, and then the little noodle piece, that's what the silver piece is called. It slips into that little pocket. Put your boot on, make sure your brakes are centered, just give it a test, make sure they're not rubbing. I've got a video showing how to correct brake rub if you're having an issue there. Maybe put your chain back in a mid-range gear, and that's it. You're set, you're good to go. You know, that sealant stuff works pretty well in these, and did the same thing to the front. It's a lot easier. You don't have to mess with the gears or any of that stuff. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.